Okay, I just did truffle init demo 2 to start up a demo project. And you think you're done with configuration, but you're not yet. This is a gift that keeps giving in the land of truffle. So if we cd to demo 2, you'll see that we have some directories. Contracts is mostly empty. This is what it builds after truffle init. There's migrations, which it uses so that it can tell if it is reloading unchanged code, stuff like that. And there's a test directory, and there is a migrations directory that doesn't have migrations in it. It actually has the initialization code for your contracts. We'll walk through what to put in there, but the first thing is this truffle config. And truffle config, for what we need to have this development piece. This is the default network. You need to put that in. And then down here in compilers, you need solc. That's the Solidity compiler. But we need a different version. The thing ships with version 5.6, I think. It lists 5.1 here. But we're going to need version 8 to fetch the exact version of the compiler. And then comment out those lines. I will send you this file, my modified version of this. But there's solc. We need to set the version of the compiler. And now we need a contract. And we're going to take a really simple contract. I think it's basically the same one I had before that I used as a demo. And we're going to take that contract and we're going to use it to make certain we can actually compile stuff. At this point, since there's no contracts besides migration.sol, it won't actually compile anything. So let's get a contract here. And I am going to copy one, okay, that will be checked in this lecture, along with truffle config and some of these other things. We also need that carefully built package that we have from the directory up above. That I have confused my directories. Oh, I see what I did. Okay, we need that package.json. This is the one that has all the installs of Open Zeppelin, all of those things have to be in here, and then we need to do an npm init. Okay. Oh, not npm init. npm install. Okay, that's going to take a second. I'm going to find the little contract so that we can put it in, and I'll copy that on the system, and then we'll copy it into the contracts directory. I'll show you what's in it. Again, it's just a short derived contract from an ERC 777, which is the replacement for ERC 20 without a bunch of flaws in it. Fix, npm fix, audit fix. This doesn't fix all the security things. You got to make some choices. I'm not messing with them, but it fixes some things that we need. So once we get that, now remember, I just have that one contract in contracts, and I have a directory up here now that I created. I think it's called example token. Example token. Okay. I don't think I put that in the right place. That needs to go into contracts. Example token is really short. I mean, it's got a few lines in it. Basically, it's got a license thing that's required these days. In version 8 of the compiler, you have to specify what the license is. I'm just making this open source. It's got a pragma that also is required these days. You'll notice that I say that's version less than 9 of the compiler. I'm importing the base contract, and I'm creating a contract with the base contract. It just is that contract. It has the constructor. It sets some values, and it mints it based on the sender. That's all it does. So there's really only about 5 lines of code in this thing. Now if we do truffle version, there we go. You'll see the truffle version, and we should be able to do truffle compile. And if we're lucky, okay, it'll compile everything. Now, chances are good. See, it's compiling all the pieces of that contract. Chances are good that the first time you run this, it's actually not going to have version 8 of the compiler installed, and it's going to use npm to download version 8 of the compiler and bring that in so it can use it as well. So that is building your first contract. Now, we haven't run the contract yet, but we're going to be able to do that here in a second. Let's ETH demo, Ganache CLI. Remember, you have to have a separate window running with Ganache. And now we should be able to truffle migrate. And migrate will actually take the contract, load it into the system. You notice over here in the other window, it ran a whole bunch of things that it got transactions and receipts and actually loaded the contracts. And you can actually see that happening in the other window. And it gives you back in this window some stuff that you really, really need to save in a file, because you can't get it back easily, if at all. But it tells you an important thing. The account that owns the contract is here. The address of the contract, surprisingly enough, that is the piece that you cannot get back no matter what you do if you don't save it at this moment. So whenever you do this and you get a contract that is deployed, okay, you need to cut and paste that and save that information off into a file. And this particular time, I don't care, but normally I would be cutting and pasting diligently for that piece of information and sticking that in a file and making certain that I've listed it. It lists the development network. The ID for the network is there. Remember, I said we just let it be star. Okay, but here's all the information you need to be able to call that contract. Now, if I build a Web3 application and I want to call that contract to do something, I have to have that address. Okay, I cannot do anything without it. Even if I know what account, if I know what permissions I have, if I lose that address, that contract is gone. And that's a big number, and it's got a portion of it, about this much, okay, including the 4 at the end, but about that much of that is a random number. So I will not be able to just search and find it. I have to save that number. Now, you'll notice also that my balance for my account is slightly decreased. So I've spent a little bit of my ETH, so you can't load contracts for free. And it's telling you what it's charging you for gas. Gas is the amount of time that you use to run stuff. So it's listing out information here that is relevant. And it's told you a total cost in ETH, which is that little number right there. Now, if I just do another truffle migrate, it's going to tell me very kindly that, yes, everything is up to date. You don't need to reload the contract. If I want to force a reload, like I lost that address and I'm willing to spend the money to load a new contract that is a different contract but the same source code, I can tell it this. I can tell it truffle migrate reset. Now, remember that the storage associated with a contract is with that address. So if I've got 5 users on the old contract and I load a new contract, they don't get the 5 users. Okay, this is a new instance of this contract. The constructor is run again. It's set up everything from ground zero. So those users are on the old contract. I haven't migrated them to new code. If I want to be able to migrate users from old code to new code, then I'm going to have to put some stuff in the contract to do that migration. That doesn't just happen. Okay? So now that we've got a contract and we've got an address saved for this contract, we can actually do things with it. And you'll notice that, yes, I've spent a little bit more ETH and it's slowly disappearing as I'm going through this. But this is a big step. Once you get it so that it can actually use the Open Zeppelin library, and you've actually got it where it can use the contract, Those are important big steps, and I'm not underrating that. My number one problem in installing Truffle and getting it to work is it finding libraries and getting things set up correctly to actually do stuff. So this is an important step. This is kind of the hello world step of writing contracts right here. So this is your first step, get this to work. Next, we're going to actually walk through building a contract. Instead of just a really simple inheritance, we're going to actually implement a contract, write tests, and call it.